but you got to have systems where you have checks and balances to be able to measure the effectiveness of what you're doing. So with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to you our very own, from the National Block Club University, Brother Syron Smith. Put your hands together for me, all.
All right. Let me first and foremost say thank you to the Temple Mercy Association. Gracious to you guys for inviting me out. I've been on this journey with you guys for all 20 plus years. And so I feel like I'm at home with family as we do this presentation here. And what I would love to do is to tell you what the format is, and then we'll get into the slides. We have 3 slides, 3 primary slides. There's slides inside of those as well. But a little background about myself first. So I grew up on all 3 sides of Chicago. It's 4 sides, but 3 out of the 4. North side, Cabrini Green, Jane Addams on the west side, 63rd and Damon on the south side. Went to Dunbar High School, joined the military in '93, had a chance to travel around the world, see some things, and that's what really allowed me to put the structure together that we're going to talk about here today. If you guys remember in Chicago, in the 90s, we saw almost 1,000 murders, 92 to be exact. And it was in 92 that I ended up deciding to join the Air Force because of what was happening around me. And the Air Force was gonna make me wait 6 months, and I really didn't think I'd be alive if it took 6 months. So the Navy said, forget that, we'll take you now. So of course I went with the Navy, and that's how I ended up doing 13 years in the Navy, because the Air Force was gonna take too long. And it was very, very hot in Chicago at that time. The 90s was the crack epidemic era. And so we had people that we loved that were strung out on crack that transformed the entire behavior. People you knew 1 minute, and the next minute they was operating totally different. And so for me, joining the military allowed me to escape. Now, if you know about Cabrini Green, literally up the street are some of the richest people in the city. And I couldn't understand why these rich people could jog and walk right down Chicago Avenue, and no one shot them, no one killed them. It was walking their dogs. And so when I asked my mom, why are blacks killing each other, but these people were able to walk right past and nothing happened, the answer she gave me didn't sit in my spirit. And so I remember in 1981, I asked God to let me grow up and do something to impact that. And so that was the birth. I was 6 years old, and fast forward to now, I'm about to present to you what happened as a result of that. But it was with the U.S. Navy in '93 that allowed me to travel to Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, and of course Africa. And that's where my real transformation took place, was in the continent of Africa. And while I was in Africa, what I saw that was such a stark difference was I saw people with cardboard and rubber band for shoes. And I came from joining the Navy, joining the military, because we were killing over Michael Jordan gym shoes. And so that stark difference really made me say, I'm not going to complain in the U.S. And that's when I cemented that no matter what happens in the U.S., I'm not going to complain, to go fight to make it better. But to see the love of our people in Mombasa with nothing materially, and it still had that love in them, I just knew we can do better here in the U.S. So what we have here, and what we'll be talking about, is the National Block Club University format. And blocks matter because no matter where you live at, chances are, unless you're in a rural area, you're coming from a block somewhere. So it's something that applies to everyone. And we go by zip codes because the blocks, depending on politics, can change. And we didn't want to base what we do on something that can always be moving around. Every 10 years when the census takes place, they can change it and totally change what we're working on. And so that's why I use zip codes, and the zip codes doesn't change because it's controlled by the U.S. Post Office. And they can't be changing zip codes because your mail got to be delivered. So they can't be moving that around based on the census. So we're based on zip codes. Everything you're going to hear me talk about, it's going to be based on the zip codes. So let me set the stage and we'll bring up our first slide. Black people here in the U.S. and around the world are under a global conspiracy to keep us on the bottom. And what I'm going to share with you today, I think you won't be able to dispute it when you look at what's happening. So when I say a global conspiracy, meaning people have gotten together and agreed for what's happening right now. I call it SSI, and that's not Social Security. That's structure, system, individual. SSI, structure, system, individual. And so when I say SSI, no matter what we do individually, and a lot of times, almost 90% of the time, when we talk about the problems we face as Black people, we go with the I, the individual. But no matter what the individual think, philosophy, how long they've been cooked in the oven, it goes back to what is the structure, what is the design. And so what I like to point to, out of the 50 states in the US, there are 7 states that's 90% white. 7 states out of 50, 90% white, meaning 9 out of 10 people is white. That's structure. So no matter if they're racist or not, the fact is, physically, tangibly, the relationships linked together is 90% white. The blackest state in the US is Mississippi. and that's not even 40%. And so that shows you the stark difference, and there's political ramifications for that 90%. Every state has 2 senators, 2 US senators out of 100. So that means you're guaranteed those 2 senators are not going to be Black because it's 90% white. So 7 times 2 is 14 senators out of 100, 14% is guaranteed to be white. They don't have to care about Black Lives Matter because their constituents are structurally 9 out of 10 white. And that should matter to us because a lot of times we get on our people about voting and we should vote. But no matter what, 14% is guaranteed just because of the structure, the setup. And the way we see system is this way. System is the actions and the timing, where structure is the relationships and the linkage. So in my household, there's 3 of us, wife, my daughter, and myself. Our household structure is husband, wife, daughter. That's the structure. The trash man comes every Monday, so my daughter takes the trash out on Sunday, today. And so that's our household system. So I just want to make sure we're clear on the separation between structure and system. The household setup is the structure. The actions we take is part of what we make as a household system. Black people are up against structures and we're up against systems. And then, of course, the individuals are the ones who benefit or are on the receiving end of the bad parts of that structural system. So when we fight back, we have to fight back in a multi-approach. We can't just fight back on educating our people. You could be the most educated person, them 7 states still 90% white. So no matter how much you do individually, structurally, they still going to think 90% a certain way. System-wise, you can't impact the system because that's behavior, that's the actions and whatnot. So SSI, keep that in your spirit as we talk here, because we gotta focus on the relationships, which is where the structure is. We gotta focus on the behaviors and actions, which is the timing, that's the system. And then of course, we can't have our people not knowing. So that's what this is gonna be about, training so that the individuals can move in a way that's gonna be in our best interest. I like to put this illustration up real quick, in your mind, you're not pulling it up. We have a dog barking up the wrong tree, and on the other side, we got a rocking chair. And so this illustration is the rocking chair are the Blacks who are doing well, and they're living their best life. They belong to the golf clubs, the country clubs, they taking trips, vacations, and so those Blacks are somewhat comfortable. So those in the rocking chair are comfortable. And so when you bring up anything contentious, they say, well, it ain't that bad, it's better than it used to be. That's that group. The other group, barking up the wrong tree, are the ones that's out pushing a siloed agenda, which is important. Silos matter. I was a member of the Navy, but the Department of Defense makes sure that no matter what I think the Navy is the best branch, Army think they're the best branch, the DOD say it doesn't matter. When we call upon you, that's when you do what your job is. And so what we unfortunately have done individually is we've gone and fought and said education is more important than safety. Safety is more important than health. Health is more important than youth and seniors. So as an individual, we're over here debating, while in this case here, the structures and systems is just wreaking havoc on us as a people. And so I wanted to make sure that you guys was clear on structure, system, individual, the barking up the wrong tree, and then over here with the rocking chair. And the barking on the wrong tree, keep in mind, if we do exactly what some of us think is the answer, it's like 4 other things that will get us. So you catch it on this end, they get you on the back end. Because if all 100% blacks that can vote voted, you still got 14 senators that's white, no matter what all blacks do. And that's because of the structure. So I just want to make sure we don't fall for the okie doke. We got to do all the things, but we need to do it in a systematic approach. So what I'm going to bring up to you guys is the slide that's up right now. This here is the G20. Now the G20, for those who may not know, is the annual meeting of the world's richest economies, that their whole purpose in meeting is to keep blacks on the bottom. And I would say this on national TV because I would challenge any of them to go against that. When these 20 economies meet, what's not being discussed is the history on how they got to be rich, how they got to be where they are right now. And the world, if they look, you will see the world has benefited from keeping Africans all over the world on the bottom. The natural resources from the continent has made a lot of these countries where they are right now. And so when they meet every year, they just met last weekend, they were not meeting to talk about repairing the wrong of what their forefathers did to other human beings. That's not what the meeting is about. The meeting is about growing their economies. They can't grow their economies unless they take from Africa the raw materials. And we're going to go through some of those raw materials. So I would challenge any G20 country to say that their meeting is not about keeping blacks on the bottom. So let's get to it. I'm going to show you what this here is. In the middle first, Chicago, so you'll know what we have already structurally built. We have 6 zip codes on the west side of Chicago, 6 zip codes on the south side of Chicago. When I say south side, I mean west of the Dan Ryan Expressway. And then east of the Dan Ryan Expressway is 8 zip codes. Together, that's 20 zip codes. So Black Chicago has 20 zip codes where we have great influence at. And that's really important to remember that, because when you look at Chicago, it sits in the middle of America. And the middle matters. The middle of us is the core. And the core is where your strength is. Now, New York and LA, that has a greater population, are on the edges. And just like our bodies, if something is on the edge, it is more vulnerable. All right? Think about it that way. Your arm is more vulnerable to be broken than your core. It takes a lot to break the core because it's in the middle. And then same thing with New York on the East Coast. Not to say that New York and LA people aren't important. You are. You are the perimeters, and the perimeter matters. But please recognize why Chicago is so important. It's in the middle. And the middle, again, is the core. So you're going to hear me talk about that later, but I just want to go back to our 20 zip codes. So Chicago, Black Chicago in particular, has seen a lot of attacks to get Chicago, Black Chicago, to depopulate. And we know the closing of the schools was a part of that. So anyway, when you allow certain things to happen, that's what you can expect that outcome. So part of any destabilization movement is to ignore. It's called ISC. First you isolate, you starve, and then you ignore. Isolate, starve, and exploit. The starvation is the ignorance. So when they got us in one area, it's easy just to cut off resources, limit the resources, and what's going to happen is starvation will take place. So we're up against that ISC, isolation, starvation, and exploitation. And the key with exploitation, it comes back to the G20 here. So if I'm the main exploiter, what I want to do to keep it going is I want to bring in other people too. So now it's a team effect, and now you can't pinpoint who the real enemy is. So the G7 is the real enemy. That's the Europe model. And those same countries in the G7 are the same ones that did the scramble for Africa back in 1881. So you're talking about the real evil ones that, think about it. We already had the transatlantic slave trade by these countries. And when they got together after that, they decided to go back for seconds and this time take over the people in their own homeland. Think about that type of spirit of a people who didn't say sorry for what their ancestors did, which trading people, human beings, but then they went back and said, let's do part two. And so they went in there and decided in Belgium, in Berlin, in 1881, to scramble and take over parts of Africa to keep getting its raw materials. So that's what we're up against. When I say it's a global attack against blacks, these are some of the facts to back that up. And you can Google any of that to see. So what you're looking at on this slide here are the 20 black zip codes first. So if you look on the inside circle, you see the zip codes sitting on top of those flags. So those are the 20 black zip codes in Chicago. In each of those zip codes, there are black people who care. There are black people who are fighting on different levels to make life better for black people. The challenge for us is the structure is one where each person is fighting in their silo, and as long as you're in your silo, you're isolated, and the enemy can just play games with you. He can give one of y'all one thing, give the other something else, and they can just do that forever. What they don't want to see is a coordinated group. See, that's where the power is the coordination. I get you and I do this, you do that. That's what they don't want to see. The beauty with Chicago being in the middle of America, we're in the best position to coordinate what we do globally because we're sitting in the middle of the third largest city in America. So 60619, if you see that one there, that zip code, just so you know the power we have, is the highest lottery playing zip code and that's not including the people from Chatham that go downtown and play. That's what happens inside the zip code. So I just want you to know the power, the capacity that we have. That's one zip code. So anyway, we took every zip code and we linked these zip codes to a different city because what blacks go through in Chicago is consistent in New York, Philadelphia, St. Louis, you name it. So every one of them black zip codes got a U.S. city linked to it. Every one of them zip codes have a country in Africa linked to it uniquely. Every one of them zip codes have a career field linked to it specifically, and every one of those zip codes have a suburb linked to it. Now, the reason for those linkages is because we had to build our own structure that's totally separate from the structure that was built to keep us where we at right now. So I just gave you the Chicago as the lead. Every zip code is linked to a country in Africa, is linked to a different U.S. city, is linked to a suburb, a career field, and what just happened 2 years ago was every zip code is linked to a G20 member country. So going back to 19, it's linked to Brazil. Now, let me tell you, only God could create that. The G20 started in 99. How did we know that there would be 20 black zip codes and it's a G20? Man just couldn't make that up. It just simultaneously happened that now our 20 zip codes can watch each member of the G20. So I just think that's a spiritual, beautiful linkage there. And so what you're looking at right here are the 20 countries that sit down every year to discuss keeping blacks on the bottom. And now instead of a red dot as a sniper, you see these other colored dots that's sitting right above them. And that's black people watching what they're doing to us as a whole globally. And so I just want y'all to see that structure there. Minister Mike, you can slip to the next slide. Keep it the same one. I just want to see if you can go to the Africa one there. But we can stay here. So this here slide is Black America. And so every zip code in Chicago is linked to a different, unique city. So let's go back to what we have right now with 60619. You see Philadelphia in that slot now. So Philly is linked to Chatham. So Chatham is Little Philadelphia to us. And between Philly and Chatham, they both are watching Brazil. And that's the format for every one of these U.S. cities. So if you have family and friends in any of them cities, we need to know them so we can make sure they know the new structure for black people worldwide. All right. If we go to the next one here. All right. It's going to give you a headache, but I'm going to break it down to you here. Okay. So going back to that Philadelphia one, or 60619 with Brazil, now you see the African country that's linked. So Angola is linked to Philadelphia. You see the Angola flag there next to Brazil, next to Philly. And you see Chatham right underneath the chair there. So that's the linkage. That's the new black structure, you guys, so that nothing gets past black people no more. We got our own structure. Now we just got to make sure black people know this is what it looks like for us to be able to deal with the world on the G20 level, Africa on the African level, the US with our sister cities, and of course, covering the Chicago headquarters. So that's the linkage. It's 20 different African countries on there with their flags. It's 20 G20 members, and then of course 20 cities. All right, let's see what else we got. Next. Okay, now this is the conspiracy part. So these commodities are in Africa, and this is why the G20 is meeting to keep taking these things here. So we'll go with uranium. So uranium is what was used to stop World War II. Uranium was found in Congo, and the U.S. went and got the uranium, and that's how they made the nuclear bomb that they dropped on Japan that came from Congo. So without Congo, there's no end to the World War II. And you better believe they didn't pay fair prices for it. France just got caught this month paying 80 cents per kilogram for uranium when the world market is 200 euros per kilogram. So right now, Nigeria, because they kicked France out in the coup, now they're charging 200 euros. So that's $55 billion that's going to go to Nigeria now if the world pays 200 euros for 1 kilogram of uranium. That's a small tidbit of the exploitation that the world is doing on Africa. They're underpaying for every resource that the continent that God put in Africa. God put these things in Africa. Man didn't do that. And so you got emerald, cocoa. The cocoa plant can't grow in Europe. The cocoa plant cannot grow in Europe. It's not warm enough. But their name is on all the chocolate. You see Belgian chocolate, you see European chocolate. It's not able to grow there. And this is an example on the exploitation that they do. Diamonds. The De Beers in South Africa, the second richest man in the whole continent of Africa is a white man. It's a white man, Rupert. Shouldn't be. You're in the continent of 1.4 billion black people, and the second richest man is a non-black person. But guess what he does? He does mining. All of this stuff comes from the ground. That's why he's the second richest man. And this is a problem for all of us that we have someone there exploiting our people there. So anyway, all of these items here that you see, coffees is there, copper, nickel, potash, ferroalloys. And here's the sick part about it. All of our cell phones, cobalt. All the electrical vehicles, cobalt. So we knew about blood diamonds back in the day with Sierra Leone, but it's blood batteries now. And so the world needs to keep letting Congolese children be in the mines, dying in these mines so that they can have cobalt to make their phones and their electric vehicles. So this is what, to me, black people got to do. We got to rise up to make sure the world stops exploiting black people. So I think that's it for this whole slide. We can go to the structure now. All right, so here we go. This here is what it looks like here. And if we go through it, I want to make sure that I explain what we already went through, you guys. So you see the way this is set up, you see Afro at the top of all of these titles. Because in all of these countries, there are black people there, there are Afros there who are living in the worst neighborhoods in these countries. And they didn't go there on their own. We know why they went there, because of evilness. And so when you see this, you're looking at the Afro country right there. Underneath that, you're looking at the African country that's linked to them. Underneath that, you're looking at the sister city linked to that, New Orleans in that case. Now, here's where it gets complicated at, but it's important, you guys. So the career field is underneath that. And you see with the first one, Afro-Argentinians, you see black travel agents. Then you see the headquarters, which is the Chicago zip code that manages the whole thing. So that's why it's underscored, because without the Chicago zip code, none of this is together. And that's the key for all of us. This is the structure so that no matter what happens, you can't kill the whole zip code. That's what happens. Whoever's going to threaten, they want to be supremacy, they'll just corrupt them or kill them. You can't kill a whole zip code. And so that's the outlet by structurally building it around territory. And then underneath that, you see algorithm code. This is complicated too, but I'm gonna tell you the purpose of the algorithm code is protection. So the algorithm code tells us when all of this takes place. So look at, you see the BS1, the box next to it color is blue, so that's what that alphabet is for. It tells you the color. If you look at all of those, you look at the yellow, you see Y for yellow. You see the G next to any of those? So I know you got black and white, but you can see on the screen the colors. So those colors matter when we think about the blocks in Chicago. So that's a slide that's going to come up. Those colors will make sense in a minute. But the second alphabet is the day of the week. So you see the first one is BS1. So the S in this instance means Saturday. All right. The 1 means the first Saturday. So what this boils down to is every first Saturday, everything above that, that's their 1 day to audit everything they did all month long. So every first Saturday, Congo need to audit what the Congo do for the rest of the continent the whole month. Afro-Argentinians should connect with us here in the U.S. every first Saturday of the month. All black travel agents should check in with each other. We got black travel agents live in the same zip code, don't know each other. That's a problem every first Saturday that they don't know each other. All right. The zip code is 60615. Every first Saturday they should have a meeting to make sure that they know each other. Who moved into 60615 this month? Who transitioned? Things of that nature. So that algorithm, no matter what the enemy do, they can never stop the first Saturday from coming. So that makes it where no matter what, this is unstoppable because it's based on time. So remember, we up against structure, system, and then individual. The timing makes that systematic because the first Saturday will keep coming when we're dead and gone. So as long as enough of us learn the formation, know the structure, it keeps going. So who are the retired travel agents? Who are the adult travel agents? Who are the young people that want to become travel agents? That's the linkage, and every first Saturday we monitor that. So as you can see here, if you go through every one of those, the second Friday for Afro-Australians, they're linked to all black politicians. We get a lot of conversations on our black elected officials, but every second Friday is when we should be holding them accountable. So they should get a report card every second Friday, all over the world. All over the world, we talk about the elected officials, but guess what? In the structure and the system, we got a way of monitoring that, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and there's no leader to kill. Second Friday, it's based on time. So as you see here, if we go to the next slide, because it's 20, so this right here, you're looking at 10, and there's the next 10, because it goes back to the 20 zip codes in Chicago. And so that's 20 different Afros, and in each of these countries, in Japan, for instance, the Afro-Japanese, we got a brother named Brian. When we reached out to him, we was trying to connect, and he said, I don't see the purpose of this. And so that's what we're dealing with individually is we're so used to what we're dealing with that now when we come with a new structure, is sometimes rejected because it seems like just too much. But everything you see on here, we're being attacked by all of this. So what we're under attack with is a lot. So to counter what they're doing, you need a lot. And so, but if people stay in whatever their lane is, you're a journalist, don't worry about all the rest of that. You just focus on that journalist part and you find out the linkages with journalism so you got layers of support to keep what you're doing on journalism together. And the dates allow it to keep repeated every 30 days, no matter what. All right, so I think that's it for those two. If we go to the blocks now, and the Chicago ones, not the Gary blocks. All right, so this here goes to the colors that we just talked about. So just so you know, all yellow means west. All yellow means west. So on the other slide, you saw Ghana, Senegal, Nigeria, they all had yellow. And the reason for that, because that's the west side of Africa. Damon is west of Honoré in Chicago. West is west. That's the western part of that village, this one little village. So the purpose of any village is to have a mini government inside of our neighborhood. It's in the zip code of 60636, so that's why you see that number, Village 36. That's the last two numbers of the zip code. So if you're in Detroit, wherever you are, the village numbers is based on the zip code of that city, and the next numbers is just unique to what blocks. But that's important coding-wise so we can manage what's happening. So when you look at this one village, the goal is that they got their own mini government. So let's get into that. So yellow is west side, western part of this village, blue is east. Now, each one of these blocks, whether they have a block club or not, we don't care if it's a block club or not. We care about block by block, and there's a difference. Block clubs is like the old school tradition, block party, no drinking, no smoking on the signs. Our focus is, do we have someone on every block? So we want the inventory. Why do we care about that more? Because while we're focused on no, what we don't know is that we got a retired travel agent on that block. The reason we care about that is because we know every first Saturday is Travel Agents Day. So for us to be worried about the block club and what they're doing, we're missing the chance to link that black travel agent on the block with other black travel agents, so together we can do black travel stuff. So we care about block by block inventory, the census. The census is what's needed, because with the census, that information puts us in a position to help our subject matter experts have a pool of people to tap into. So when you think about Damon, 63rd Damon, who lives on that block? Who lives on 64th and Damon? And what happens most of the time is people on their own block don't know each other. So it's hard, because if your son is the one breaking in houses, I don't even want to know you. So now you're up against that. We come talking about National Block Club. They're like, I don't want to hear nothing about Block Club. But let's just talk about your son being a travel agent. So we got to fight against the perception that this is about the block club party and the signs that say no. This is about getting the structure filled in. And the beauty with the structure, Dr. Webb Evans, key example, his whole piece is about the dollar, economics. Every one of these blocks is spending money. Every single one of these blocks is spending money. People wouldn't be in our neighborhoods if it wasn't a lot of money there. So the notion that we don't have it is just totally backwards. And so I'm gonna tell you the structure within this. And on some of these slides, we have it at the bottom. And it's not in none of the printouts, so I'm gonna give it to you. Every Sunday is Family Day. This is part of the structure. Every Sunday is Family Day. So on each of these blocks, whoever is our contact person, we should be saying, okay, now that the family is together, do y'all have a will? Y'all know what a trust is. What's next? So now on the block, now we're linking the Sunday agenda to a real agenda that's going to make that family stronger. Every Monday is Safety Day. Every Monday is Safety Day. So every Monday is your smoke alarm working. That's in your best interest to have a structure and a system to make sure you press the buttons on your smoke alarm. So when we hear about anyone transitioning because they didn't have a working smoke alarm, we knew the Monday was failed, because Monday is the reminder. There's 52 Mondays a year. Tuesday is Education Day. And so the key here is we can always learn more. And so we say, I don't want to learn nothing else. That's unfortunate, but how about helping our K through 12 graders? What kid on 63rd Damon is struggling in math, and on 63rd Honor is a math genius? So in their own village is what they need, but we haven't done the inventory, so we can't link it together where it makes sense. Every Wednesday, we call it Dr. Webb Evans Day for us, because every Wednesday is Don't Spend a Penny Without Our Oppressor Day. It's Economic Day. It's the Black Boycott Day. Don't, if you need gas, buy your gas Tuesday or Thursday. Don't do it Wednesday, because we're using the time of Wednesday to show the world that we're coordinated with no leader. If you notice, there's no organization name on that document there, because this is about structure and system. So we get in that system that once a week, we're not giving our enemy money. They're gonna catch wind. They're gonna say, who is this so we can kill him? There's no one to kill. We just agreed to time, which is Wednesday. And so in this village, how much money are we giving to the Mexicans doing landscape? How much money are we giving to them doing roofing? Are we buying our soap? Are we getting our stuff from minutes at a time? Like, what are we doing financially, economically, at least once a week? And I get it. People say, I do it every day. So we say, just name 4 days last month, and they can't. So Thursday is health day. So we already know what's happening to us health-wise. So every Thursday we work to be healthier. We push that. And just imagine if the people on 65th and Damon on Thursday start walking through their village, what that'll do to the people's mindset on Walcott. And I'm, man, every week I see them coming together. Yeah, come on, join the structure. And then Friday is Senior Citizens Day. So in every one of these villages, every one of these blocks, there are seniors. Some of our seniors are dying due to loneliness. Just no one connecting and no one caring. So what happens when the children on 66 and Damon on Friday, they go throughout the whole village cutting the grass for free for just the elders? That's their way of paying homage to the structure. Then Saturday is Youth Day. So how many 3rd graders, how many 8th graders, how many 14-year-olds live in each block and in the village? So once we have that info, that data, now we can come up with what we want to do for this village. And altogether in Chicago, there's 800 of these villages. So there's one village, there's 800 more that covers our 20 zip codes. Now at the bottom, you see there, say tomatoes. Remember I said everything has a career field associated with it? So the career field for this whole zip code is farming. And so each village has something dealing with what we grow. This village in particular is all about tomatoes. Another village beets, another village corn, another village, but they all in that one zip code of farming. And so that's what anyone we meet in these blocks, that's the conversation we're having with them. Can you grow some tomatoes in your backyard? Can we get that vacant lot, grow some tomatoes? And then we talk to other people, where you get your tomatoes from? And we make the links. So that's the way every village is set up in LA and Detroit and St. Louis. If you see the yellow, you know that's the western part. So that's our insight to know how it's structured all over. And again, there's no name on there because it doesn't matter. We can't come in nobody's neighborhood and tell them what to do. But what we have already done is created a structure that even if they're against, us coming over there, you still need your smoke alarm to work. So you can be mad at us structurally, but it's in your family's best interest that you check your smoke alarm. So why not have a system? In this case, Mondays to check it. You might check it on Tuesday. That's up to you, but at least something is reminding the whole neighborhood to once a week check it. So that's the setup. That's the structure. Let's see how much time I got.
You got 30 minutes.
Okay, so that's the structure, that's the system. Now we have these challenges that we face as Black people. That's what I want to spend the next time talking about. So what other slide do we have? This is it? But that's Gary Indiana there, so that's the saying y'all see. So you know tab. So look, you're not even in Gary right now, but you know what yellow means. Yellow means west. So you already know tab is west of Cleveland. So because of the structure, so that puts you in position no matter where we go, that you would know kind of what the lay of the land is. All right, so I think that's it for the slides. Now, what I want to do is talk about these 8 buckets here. And the purpose of these buckets is this. We have wonderful Black people fighting for Black life. All right, we got wonderful Black people. And one of the challenges with Black people that's strong and focused is sometimes you can't hear the next person because you're so focused on what God got you working on. And this here, I'm gonna read these 8 buckets out so that you can, in your own mind, internalize the challenge we face as a people. And each one of these buckets are important. I promise you it is. So this first bucket, we call it team number 1, is our business bucket. Now the business bucket is made up of people who are risk takers and want to create jobs and create economics for us. So those are those type of people. And we can go through all of our zip codes and look at the Victor Loves with the restaurant. We can look at, every one of our people, Crystal Diet out west with the Going Again Travel. Who are the risk takers that's creating jobs? So that's one bucket. The second bucket is our protest bucket. These are people that they just want to hold people accountable. They want to be out there protesting. They want to shut stuff down. I call them the pit bulls, and we need pit bulls. We need to have a force out there that is Johnny on the spot when it's time to make sure our issues are being addressed. We're seeing it right now with the illegal migration happening. You seeing us out there. When I see that, though, I wonder in that crowd, where our business people are, because we need to, after that meeting, that protest, we need to have a side conversation about Black economics so that the money can keep flowing and not be going to our oppressors. So it's good we all in Team 2 protest mode, but who are the business people in that group? Team 3 is our safety people. I'm a military man, so this is all about veterans on every block. How many veterans on the block? You know, there's no inventory being done the way it should be. We should know who our Army vets, Navy vets, Air Force vets are, who are retired police, retired firefighters. All of them represent safety. So when we talk about safety, whether the people who've done that already, who swore an oath to keep people safe. So that's Team 3 bucket is safety. It's also our martial arts people too. Team 4 is education. So that's clear. We all know people that's either students or teachers. Team 5 is construction. And this is a big one here, construction bucket, because even though that's business too, that's hands-on in a skilled trade, and Black people getting their butt kicks here. All right? We can't have other groups coming in, making money, doing light construction, home repairs, and sending it back to their country. It's blasphemy for us to allow that to happen, and we have our young men out here not working. Matter of fact, standing while these people are working. So that's that Team 5 bucket of construction, hands-on people there. Team 6 bucket, and we have to face it, is our racism bucket. We got Black people married to non-Black people. So that's that bucket of people who might not be as pro-Black. They might be in the middle. So there's a place for them. That's what Team 6 is. Team 7 is our food bucket. So we know that there's a lot of profits being made on poisoning our communities. Make no mistake about it. All the dialysis of everything you see here is all part of the intake that we're taking in. So this is made up of our farmers, our gardeners, our restaurant chefs, people that deal with anything dealing with food. Then the last one is our legal bucket, team number 8. This is made up of the people who make the laws, politicians, and the lawyers and the judges that enforce the laws. So again, these 8 buckets, think about it this way, this I hope people remember. Let's look at your household. So your front door is part of Team 3. Why? Safety. You leave your door wide open. Why do you close your door? For safety reasons. So that's Team 3. When you go in the kitchen, why you go in the kitchen? For food. That's Team 7. That's how you remember that. Your toilet's clogged up. You need something done. That's Team 5. Plumbing, construction. Team 5. Someone putting racist flyers out on the block. That's Team 6. Racism. You're going to sue someone that hit your car. That's Team 8. Legal. They having a strike at your job. That's Team 2. Protest. Your daughter going to school, that's Team 4, education. So what I just described to you is happening in every household. Every household have these areas, if you will. But what we as Black people haven't done, and we got to do this, is we got to start inventorying so that we'll have it block by block. It's like having Michael Jordan sitting on the bench instead of playing in the game. We have Michael Jordans in the households on the block that's not in the game. And we wonder why we can't win. Is because first we haven't identified them, and then we got to, once we get them identified, linked up with other people so that they can get in the game and help us win as a people. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew these 8 buckets alone is not going to fix our problem. And this was the challenge when we say educate or die. And our dear brother, Dr. Phillip, we took that sentiment, and that's when Tuesday came up for Education Day. Because what Dr. Fields said was accurate in terms of it's critical. But if someone is getting shot and killed and robbed over here, then the education isn't going to mean much when your safety is at risk. So Monday being safety day, so we can make sure there's time set aside to make sure you're safe. So we make sure you're educated. Okay. And then the same with Brother Quasey said, health. He said, if you're not healthy, you can't do anything. That's critical. But again, if someone's threatening to shoot you when you get out of school, your health ain't as important as your safety is. So everything fluctuates. So we said every Thursday, Health Day, to honor what this brother, what God put in his spirit. Dr. Webb Evans, economics. Economics is critical because your health matters on how much money you got. Your safety matters on, so economics, we said, okay, Wednesday, economic day. Let's not give our money to our oppressors. So to us, that's Dr. Webb Evans Day. So we got Philip Jackson Tuesday, Dr. Webb Evans Wednesday. We got Herbert Quasey on Thursday, and the whole ceasefire caps and the safety people. We don't want to give them credit, but their whole thing is Monday to us Safety Day. But let's just say what they do on safety is they go out, engage the people, but what they're not doing is doing the inventory. And without the inventory, as you can see, we're missing the opportunity to do this.
It's against the law. It can't be contact information. Ain't that crazy?
And for a reason that we know the oppressors right want them to do that. But so that's the 18. So what I gave you guys, if we go back to SSI, is structure. And structure is boring. Structure is boring. I tell people all the time, people don't want to, when you go to buy a car, you don't get on the ground and look underneath the car, look at the frame of the car, see how strong the structure is. you just say whatever, as long as the car can go. But we have to have a structure because what we're dealing with is up against their structures that's robbing us every single second. So I just highlighted our structure. When I gave you anything dealing with time, Monday, Safety Day, Tuesday, that's system because it's dealing with time and our behavior, what we do with that time. And then the individual is just how do we get our people, whether they're in retirement, whether they're in their prime, or whether they're a young person, organized into one of those buckets there. So that's kind of the presentation, short version of it. And then the outcomes, what we expect to happen is going to be this, because if we don't talk about financing, then we would be, pretty much setting ourselves up for failure. Nothing flows without making sure the money is there. And if we are waiting on grants, if we're waiting on outsiders to finance us, why would they do that? I mean, just realistically, why would I help? Why would your enemy help you to not be dependent on them again? And so I gave you guys one of the lottery numbers. So we have the money. So it's not a matter of, if we have it, will we get an agreement to circulate it internally? And that goes back to the Wednesday agenda. And my wife, for instance, every month we have to name at least 4 Black risk takers, business people, that we circulated some money with. My wife got to name her own 4. She can't use my 4. So when I name my 4, she got to name her 4. Each person got to name their own 4 because that's minimum stuff. We know Chinatown, Greek Town, Italy, they can name over 20. If we can't even name 4, what do they say about us? We're directly part of the problem because you circulating, that means you're circulating outside the family and whatnot. So that's one of the tools we use to measure. So when the Bud Billiken Day Parade happens every year, it pains me because I know that we walk in that crowd, the largest Black parade, that a great percentage can name 4. Minimum stuff. And a lot of times you'd be surprised. You ask people, I spit out Black all the time. Can you just name 4? And they can't. Because it's not as intentional. In the back of your mind, we should buy Black. But if you're not intentional about it, what ends up happening is you blow it off. Well, with us, with this concept, with this structure, you feel guilty once a week. Because Wednesday came, oh man, I got to catch up. Well, you got 3 more weeks to catch up. But with the timing, it forces you to be very intentional and you can measure it. Because at the end of the month, it's either 4 or you didn't. And what we've also done to help is we've picked 4 different businesses every month. And if you can't name your 4, we can give you their Cash App and Zelle info so you can send them some money. That way, under no circumstances should a Black person can't name 4. That got to be coming in our spirit. Because remember, they naming 20. If we can't name 4, we directly hurting our risk takers. So if you can't name 4 because you don't go outside, you don't know what the Black businesses are, we got a list ready for you. Based on whatever city you're in, we can give you the 4 people Cash Apps, Zelle, PayPal, so that if nothing else, you just blast $5 to them 4. At least you can meet the Black quota, the personal, no matter what I'm named for quota. And we think in every city, we get our Black people feeling that degree of responsibility, our risk taker is going to see that, man, this month, 1,000 people send me $5 for no reason. Now, it's a reason because we know you got highs and lows in business. So consider this your blessing on the high end to keep the risk taking going. And so that's one of the ways we measure on that end with the Wednesday agenda, and then the Friday agenda with our elders. So we have elders, and this is a little complicated. If you're an elder with a teenage son in the house, and we know Friday we cutting grass for free, that's just not balanced that we cutting your grass and your 17-year-old son's in the house. So when we say no, we don't want to become the crutch because he needs to be motivated and inspired to take care of his grandma, And so while we are doing it for someone who don't have no one in the home who really needs it, it just don't make sense to become the crutch for someone that's going to possibly be a problem in the neighborhood eventually anyway. So that's how we measure the Friday agenda, is when our young people ask us for money, they come and want something, what have you done on Friday for an elder? See how you can measure that? It's 4 Fridays a month. What can you show that you did? Because some people can't name anything they've done for an elder. So this allows us, again, a matrix that we can monitor and measure if they're doing it or not. Again, the smoke alarms is clear because, you don't have to check that every Monday, but to have someone fire take place because they didn't check it, we know they ignored the Monday agenda. So we just got to get this message out there to every block, every zip code, because these are things that matter for their life. But if you do it in synchronization, now we as a people is moving forward with no leader. I don't know if you guys are catching that, but that's the key. There's no organization. I don't even think you guys know the name of organization, because what matters is how we're structured and how the system works.
And the mindset.
What was that?
And the mindset.
The mentality, that's it. Where's our mindset? So here's the ask for you guys. How do we pay for this? We needed something that everyone can participate in. Everyone can participate, because if you have something that's out of reach, that's the excuse. And we want to reduce excuses so that, there's no excuse. So our philosophy has been and continue to be for almost 30 years, 4 quarters a month. $1 a month. $1 a month. The way we have it set up and structured is 100 pennies that go to Africa. That's $1. We walk past pennies, we want that to eventually go to the continent. With our sister cities, that's 10 dimes. 10 dimes. That's $1 to our sister city. Yeah. And what that does, that allows us, as we get 1,000 people to do this, now we have financing to make sure that sister city is coming into your zip code. When they come here, they know Wednesday is Black Day. So now what happens is we have a vibrancy happening in Black America where our $1 from the dimes is moving our people around. Some of these young cats out here, they need to change the scenery. That's what happened with the Navy for me. It got me out the projects to seeing the work. It let me see something different. And so think about dimes as a way of making sure our young people are moving around. And when that travel, Jay-Z quoted something about when he was able to travel, what it did to him. And that's paramount for what happened to me. That travel let me just know that it was more to life. Mississippi, I didn't talk about too much, but 20 nickels is $1, and that's what goes to Mississippi. Your dollar goes the furthest in Mississippi than any other state in America. It's the poorest state in the union. And so our putting money into Mississippi is our reason to send our people and travel to Mississippi. So they get out the concrete jungle of the inner cities to the rural agriculture where the areas are cleaner and can breathe a minute while they get focused and then come back and fight some more. So 20 nickels Mississippi, and then finally us, we want your 4 quarters. That's $1. Everything I just named to you is small so that everyone can participate. Everyone can participate. So 4 quarters a month, that's $1 a month. That's $12 for the year. We know we're not burning nobody out. It's 46 million Black people. So, pie in the sky, when this works, that's $46 million every month with nothing, no sweat off our brow. It didn't hurt us at all. And if we only get half of that, that's 23 million. I think we can move mountains with 23 million. If we only get a fourth of that, that's 11.5 million. I think we can still do well with that. So the point is when we decide because it's not a matter if we have it. We have it. It's just when we decide to circulate it internally. But the structure is there, the format is there, and we can rock and roll. How we looking on time?
You got about 7 more minutes.
All right, good. So if you guys are willing to take that risk, and it's a small risk because it's only $1, what you're gonna see manifest, just so you know, is something we call cats. Cats. And so cats is the visual, because it's one thing you hear me talking all this structure, that's boring. But what cats is, and this is what it looks like. I should have brought a slide with that on there. It's a picture of a cat here, that Black Panther there. And that stands for conventions, awards, tours, and then summit. CATS, C-A-T-S. This is the fun part. So CATS is the vibrancy in Black America. So the first one, the C, is the conventions. So right now, this month, the convention is the Firefighters Convention, first weekend of this month. The Barbers and Beauticians weekend, Barber and Beauticians Convention, the second week. Yesterday, the Poetry Convention, and then next Saturday is the Arts Convention, always on Saturdays. So these firefighters, again, on your block, any firefighters, any poets on your block, any artists on your block, it gives us an excuse to get to know our neighbor. Hey, this convention coming up for arts, I know your son loves drawing, here you go, put him in the game. So this here is national, but they always in Gary, Indiana. Conventions are always in Gary, Indiana. The S in Summit in the CATS is the summit that's always in Chicago. And I'm gonna tell you why each one of those. So Chicago is the headquarters, we talked about that. But why Gary matters is because Gary is still 83% Black. Meaning 8 out of 10 people there are Black. And it's a small town and it's right next to Chicago, the third largest city. And how Gary goes is no reason why Chicago can't back them up because of how small Gary is. It's right up the street, it's 20 minutes away. And it has everything of an international city. You have the trucks that pass through Gary from Seattle all the way to New York along 80. You got them going all the way down south through all the truck stops inside of Gary. As a matter of fact, Gary is one of the worst places to come up missing because you can be on any truck going anywhere in the country. And that's uniquely to Gary because of where it sits at. You can be going east, west, north, or south. So Gary is international in that regard. It has an airport, international airport. UPS is using the airport extensively right now. So it has the airport, it has the rail, it has the water, Lake Michigan right there. Okay, so for this small little town right next to Chicago, 83% Black to not be flourishing, says something about us here in Black Chicago. We should be supporting, buying that joker up. Shouldn't have non-Black people over there buying up Gary. Because if they get their hands around Gary, they got the rails, they got the air, they got the water. We got that now, and we should really be buying it up. So our vision is that the conventions will give us the excuse to have a new economy in Gary, Indiana, which would be weekly conventions. 52 conventions a year out of Gary that will allow all 20 cities to send at least 2 people to the convention. Now you got vibrancy in Gary. You got an excuse on every block to do the inventory to send people to the convention. The A in CATS is the awards. So this month, the 9th grade awards, 7th grade awards, 6th grade awards, and 2nd grade awards is for this month of September in every city. So now, if you have a 9th grader, you got something to say. It's a 9th grade competition going on. I want you to compete, see if you win. You have a 7th grader. This is another excuse that on your block to do the inventory. Another excuse. You see the kid hanging out. What grade are you in? You know, these CATS be happening every month, so you need to find out more and get involved so you can win some money. Now, here's the beauty with the grades. All chefs nationwide, all landlords nationwide, we ask them to financially support 9th graders. That's a new structure. So now when we say, who will pay for it? Landlords and 9th graders, landlords and chefs. Landlords and chefs. So when we meet a landlord, we know what we want from them. We want them to finance the ninth grade awards. And they can name it after their deceased loved one. So now they get the honor, the people that transition, but the main thing is that parent got some support financially. Every grade got different business links tied to them. So that's what the awards do. Next month, it'll be another 4 different. And why is it 4? Because there's 4 Tuesdays, Education Day each month. You see the link there? And 4 Education Days each month, 4 grades each month. The T in CATS is for the tour. So remember I spoke about if you can't name 4 black businesses, risk takers, you put money in, we give you 4, just in case you don't have 4 on your own. And we say, here go their cash out and sales, just send them the money. So this month, who's getting money, even if they don't do the services, are beauticians, car wash owners, funeral homes, and lawyers, black lawyers. Those are the ones selected for September. So if nothing happens, so we got black lawyers that we're talking to, making sure they're okay with receiving money. We got black funeral homes we're talking to, black car washes, and it's their month. So if people can't name their 4, we say blast the money to them. And then the last one I already talked about, that's the summit. So the summit is when we meet to discuss how everything went. That's our personal accountability. Everything that we've been talking about, how did it go this month? What's the grades? Did we do well? What do we need to do better in? So that's the whole, to me, fun part, because all this is based on action and coming together, physical interaction, supporting our black businesses, supporting our students, and that's the format. All righty, you guys, thank
you. Question. I know you mentioned about September and those businesses or occupations that fall under September. Can you name the other 11 months and what they are?
Putting you on the spot.
All right. You don't have it.
Yeah, I can email it to you, but right off the top of my head, so last month it was the barbers, because it was barbers and the beauticians. So our barbers got the money. It was auto mechanics. So we was looking for auto mechanics. They got the money, and the other 2 I can't remember. But yeah, every month. So it's literally 48.
Mm-hmm.
4 times 12 months. So right. Yeah, I can't name off the 2. So.
Yeah. It's an excellent concept.
It takes the excuse away, and that's the number one thing is to take away the excuse.
And put the contingency in place.
Backup plan. Because someone, why they getting it this month? Here's your turn. It's on here. You got your turn. It's coming. So.
Exactly.
So, yes, sir.
Man, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Man, I hope y'all out in Facebook land take the opportunity to download that, save that to your favorites, go back and redo it and listen to it again, and write down your questions and get in touch with the Temple Mercy Association so we can get in touch with Syron and put you in your community where you need to be in the scope of things dealing with helping us get a system of salvation for our people. I think that was a wonderful presentation. Every time I hear it, I learned something different. I'm like, man, that's different than the last one he said. And he's been saying the same thing 30 years. But the severity of what's happening in the community and the different things, and like he said, I just witnessed the exact same thing. Going to a meeting yesterday, it's the same group of friends, and we all arguing about, no, you should be over here with me, I'm in the economic lane. No, you should be over here with me, I'm the safety lane. Hell no, we got to get into the politics, and we can't never get nothing done because everybody pulling on the same group of people to do everything. And that's why people don't want to come to meetings no more, because they want to stay in their lane. So, man, Syron, that was beautiful, man. God bless you for that, man. I believe that was sent by God just for us. That's nothing but God. So, if you all don't mind, join us. We're going to take up our offering now. Those that are in Facebook land, we'll put the Cash App and the information up if you want to give to the Temple of Mercy Association so we can continue to do what we're doing. And so with that, we thank you. We welcome you here each and every Sunday at 12:30 at 616 East on 79th Street. Thank you all for listening. Until again, 71st.
71st.
I thought that's I did say 73rd, I'm sorry. 616 East 71st Street, right here in Grand Crossing, block over from St. Mark. So join us each and every Sunday. With that, thank you all for leading you as we greeted you in the ancient but yet holy words of peace and paradise in the languages of our forefathers of Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Abaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. Peace. Oh, that's the one.
The essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!